we can check later. Hello, Mandla. Well, this training is going to be really interactive. So I'm going to look always into the chat. So if you have any question, just type on it and I will try to respond. And the purpose of this training is to transmit all the things that I think you need to know to do a really good project in LPR. So let's go with it. Okay, so in this training, we are going to see the camera features, how can it work, before styling, installation, fine tuning, solving issues, and direct test. Okay, so these 3 points over here is general knowledge about LPR technology. You can obviously apply into our LPR, but it's good to know if you are going to work with LPR cameras in any kind of project. Okay, so well, let's talk a little bit about our camera features. So it's all-in-one LPR algorithms. Okay, it's embedded. The neural server is inside the camera. Can read over 18 countries, license plate algorithms. We have optical zooms. Then mainly the important point for me is can read number plates in between 3 meters and 10 meters, and it's PoE power supply, and it's really easy for install. It have infrared, obviously, to work perfectly into the night. Can recognize number plate over up to 20 kilometers per hour. This can work a little bit higher, but we recommend this velocity of the vehicle to ensure a really good accuracy for the license plate recognition. Can obviously work with ZKTeco parking barriers, can open the barrier. Other barrier of third-party brand also can be used as a normal CCTV, so you can record what the camera is seeing to an NVR, and is compatible with ZK biosecurity and ISP. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the camera. It has 2 megapixel sensor, full metal case, IP67, the fixed bracket PoE important, infrared LED for working during the night, and the tail cable that it's the important for me. We have, well, the reset the audio in RS485 that we are developing to try to connect into the OR controller. Okay, we have the Ethernet connection for giving the internet and also the PoE. Alarm in, we have 2 alarm in and 1 alarm out, and obviously the power connection. So the LPR camera is one solution. Inside this solution, we have 2 different products, and this is quite important to know because we have the CCTV camera from one side, when we have the CCTV parameters, image setting, stream setting, the resolution of the camera. Okay, this is the CCTV product. And we have, in the other hand, the LPR solution. Okay, so that's where we can find the OCR parameters, the country setting, the number plate list. Okay, different products that interact in between each other. So the OCR product is only referred into the LPR upper menu that we see over here. Okay, inside the red circle. So any question from this point? No, perfectly. So let we see how the camera can work. So we can install the camera and work in standalone mode, connected with ZK biosecurity in online mode or offline mode, or we can do integration with the camera. So let's talk first about the standalone mode. That is probably what our client use the most. So well, we are going to use the web server to manage the list, the setting of the camera. We are going to save the white list, black list, number plate inside the camera. The camera can open the barrier, can open automatic door. We can trigger the OCR with input, like for example, a magnetic look on the ground, or maybe ticket from a parking, and we can send alerts, like for example, an email or an FTP message. And each camera can create a report about the transit, okay? But this is important because the camera is not going to communicate in between each other. So if we have 5 cameras and we want a report of the 5, we need to find a report in each camera, okay? So let me say an example about standalone installation. So imagine we are in a university residence where the manager of this or the staff are going to type down the authorized number plate for the students. It's going to save on an Excel file, and we are going to charge this Excel file into one camera. This is a normal question. Imagine that we have multiple cameras. Do we need to put this Excel file inside each camera? The answer is no. We can work like in primary and secondary structure. So we are going to put this Excel file in one camera, and the other camera is going to copy all this list, okay? So I have this video. This is not a university residence, but this is a real scenario about golf camp in Spain. So this is when we are doing the test. So authorize the number plate, open the barrier, and that's it. It's quite simple, but it works really smooth, okay? So another way of work is with a biosecurity, okay? So the online mode, we are going to use biosecurity to manage the list. On the user part of biosecurity, we are going to create all the user, and we are going to put the number plate into each user. The camera setting needs to be done on the web server, okay? Night lights, the parameters in between day and night need to be done in the web server of the camera. However, biosecurity is going to control when to open the gate through the controller, okay? And we obviously can create advanced report through ZK biosecurity. On the right, you can see the structure of this online mode work, okay? We connect the camera into the internet, the camera is going to send information to biosecurity, and it's the biosecurity who is going to open the gate through the controller. This is, for example, an example of biosecurity. When to use online mode? Well, when each transit matters, that's quite important, and when we need to give high traceability of any vehicle movement. So on the image, we see a logistics center where the client is using this kind of mode of working. On the other hand, we have the offline mode. When in this point, we need to use biosecurity to manage the list, the same as the online mode. The camera setting needs to be done on the web server. However, the camera is going to grab all the lists through an FTP, okay? In this structure offline, is the camera who is going to open the barrier. We don't need controller over here. When we need to use this offline mode, mainly when we need to work without internet, because in the online mode, we need connection in between the camera and the biosecurity. With the offline mode, we can work offline. And the third mode of working is the integration, okay? So the camera provide a lot of, well, multiple parameters for the OCR, also for the cameras, and we can integrate all LPR into a third-party system through FTP, HTTP message, or socket client message. On the image, we see a client who integrate our LPR into a parking system environment. What is the purpose of the online mode? You are going to have, I'm going to see you because, okay, Victor. So in the online mode, for example, imagine that I have, let me say, 4 entry on the same say part of the building. a big building, like for example, this one in the image, okay? Particularly in this case, the client have 2 parking barriers for one entry and 2 parking barriers for the other entry. So with the controller, imagine that we install 2-door controller. I connect every single one door to the left barrier, the second door to the right barrier. So on the biosecurity, I can say, okay, if the truck comes, because this was an installation for trucks, open the 2 gates. So when the truck tried to enter into the building and as is an authorized vehicle, the two barriers open. I will imagine that I arrive with my car, goes into the security booth and say, I have a visit, I want to see a client, and the security guard is going to open only one gate. So why the controller give the client a lot of power to do any kind of configuration? We can open both a parking barrier, we can open only one. It's give more flexible. Because remember that the LPR camera only have one output for exit. I don't know if I respond your question, but otherwise we can see later. Well, we have here an example of an integration. Hello, Fabric. Can you help me with the question? Well, and we have the integration mode. I answered later, Fabri. This is an example of HTTP message. Okay, so that's quite simple to let a client integrate all LPR camera into a third-party system. So this example is for HTTP message. We have all the parameters here, like for example, the number plate, the country, the size of the character, all the information that the LPR give into the results can send to a third-party system. And a common question about integration is if the camera have a heartbeat. So I think 3 firmwares ago we have this option. So yeah, we have the heartbeat for the integration. So I'm going to see the question right now. It's not a model master camera, slave camera XFF. Okay. You can do both configuration. I mean, you can have the 2 cameras, and the 2 cameras is grabbing the information from the FTP, or you can have 1 camera grabbing the information from this FTP and the secondary camera grabbing the information from this primary camera. It's going to be a decision depending of the installation. If for example, we are talking about that we have an installation in middle of nowhere using 3G connection, I will definitely choose 1 camera to connect into the FTP that consume just a few of data, and the other camera that is connected locally grab the information from this primary camera. Okay. Well, the heartbeat for integration is more or less the same as the HTTP message. Let me see like this. I don't have an image of this, sorry, but I can send it to you, Daniel. You select the IP, the port, and the second for this heartbeat, and the camera is going to send a message into that server. So basically, it's a message that looks quite similar to this one, okay? But it's just a keep alive. Well, okay, now we know a little bit more about our solution, how can it works, and more or less what is inside the camera. So at this point, where we decide or we win a tender or a project, now it's come for me the important point that is, the difference between success and fail is this kind of points. So let's see. Before installing, what we need to know. Okay. So the basic facts. First, we are going to see the lane form, from where comes this vehicle, distance of the LPR, height of the LPR, and some accessories for the lane. So each lane is different. That's quite important for me. We need to analyze every lane differently. So we are going to have straight lane, we are going to have curve, some lane going up, going down. All this variable is going to affect into the LPR. And depending on that, we need to decide where we need to install the LPR camera. The objective obviously is to maximize the accuracy of the camera. So for that reason, we need to have clear number plate on the image, minimum angle as possible, and the maximum time the number plate into the image. Okay. So I'm going to give like a quick example of what I'm doing right now. Imagine that we have the car coming in this way. Okay. So it's a curved lane. The vehicle always comes from the same side. Okay. So when the car approach into the lane, we are going to have the number plate more or less in this place. Okay. If we decide to install the camera on the left side of the lane, we are going to see the number plate more or less like this. Okay. However, simple movement, we move the LPR camera into the right, and we are going to see the number plate like this. The difference between installing the LPR on the left or on the right can be quite different for the client. On the left, we can reach more or less 88, 92% of accuracy, and on the right, 98, 99% of accuracy. That could be logical, but trust me when I said that we need to analyze each lane differently, because you can find a lot of lane in this kind of situation. The last image that I'm putting right now is during the night. Okay. So another problem of having the number plate in really like this, like in the image, is the infrared doesn't reflect on the number plate, and during the night we are not going to see it. So this is installing badly, and this is installing correctly in the proper way. Change a lot. So same camera, same solution, depending on where we are going to install, is going to be the difference between success or fail. In terms of angles, our recommendation is never pass 25 degrees on the vertical angle, 20 on the horizontal, and the number plate try to have always straight as possible in the image. Okay. So in this point, we know where we need to install the camera. Then we see the distance. Our recommendation is quite simple. If we install the LPR camera in between 3 meters and 10 meters, we are going to do correctly. Okay. But the technical specification is the target is to set up the pixel height of each character in between 20 and 30 pixels high. When we recognize the number plate, okay, the LPR camera is going to give off this data. So we can know if we need to zoom out or zoom in the image based on this specific data. Okay. Any question from this point? No, perfect. Okay. Then we have the height of the LPR, where we are going to install on the ground or maybe in a pole. So obviously, we can have pros and cons. So if we install the camera height, we are going to have less effect of the car light brightness, quite important for during the night. We are going to have less effect of the sunlight brightness, quite important, we are going to see later. More possibility to read number plate even if the car is doing tailgating, because we see the number plate from the top. But obviously we have some cons, like for example, more angle to the number plate. So this reduces a little bit the accuracy if we go higher than this 25%, and more difficult installation. That's not always true, but in some cases, if we need to move the camera into the ceiling or into the pole, we can have more difficult installation. Okay. Another thing is the velocity. If we go into the side of a place and we think that the car can reach more than 20 kilometers per hour, it's really important to install some accessories to reduce the velocity of the car. Like for example, a signal slowdown, a speed bumper, or this we call in Spanish a didactic radar, okay? So there are some kind of things to try to reduce the velocity of the car, because remember, we try to have the car less than 20 kilometers per hour. Okay, so at this point, we already know the basic facts that we need to know if we want to install a camera, an LPR camera correctly, but we have also expert facts. So we are going to see right now automatic doors, the background which matters, and the sun. That's quite important for me. So let's start with the automatic door. This is quite fun for me. You recognize this is an automatic door. Basically, we use in, I think, all the country. So let's try to do the same process as the LPR do, okay? So we grab the image and we convert into black and white image. I'm going to crop a part of the image, and I'm going to select this small part of the number of the door. Okay, now I'm going to present a Spanish number plate. This is a rare number plate 1111 ILL, but it could happen, okay? Now we are going to convert into black and white, the same as the LPR do. And now you can see why it's quite important to avoid the automatic door, because for the LPR, the automatic door can be a number plate. This happened to all manufacturers. So it's quite important for an expert for an installer to know this part of the technology. Okay, we're going to see later how we can solve this problem. Now, another thing that we need to be aware before the installation is the background vehicles. Okay, so I see this image. It's really clear. It's quite perfect for me, but I see this car on the background that specifically in this case is too far from the LPR camera. So the LPR camera is not going to read this number plate, but in some scenario, if this car is closer, it can confuse the LPR camera. Maybe it's continue reading this number plate. So we need to take care about the background. Any question from this point? No. If you have any question, please tell me. I'm checking the chat sometimes. Well, and the third expert fact that we need to know that create quick difference between fail and success is the sun. Okay, so I'm going to present this LED light, 200 watts, 9,000 candles, that is luminance per square meter, and it costs around 100 euros. It's a good one, okay? But now we have the sun that is quite powerful. It have a lot of candles, and it's free, okay? What I'm saying that if we have the bad lucky to have the sunlight directly into our LPR camera, we are going to have a problem. There is no way to solve this kind of situation, okay? Sometimes occur. The good point is normally the sun move. So this situation is going to take a couple of minutes during the day. Sometimes only it's going to take place during, I don't know, maybe on summer or maybe on winter. But if we want to really success into an LPR project, we need to come into the sun, okay? So we have a question over here. Exactly. it's the ROI is the answer for solving this problem, Mandel. We are going to see later, but yeah, you definitely you worked with our LPR before. So, well, the sun situation, how we can avoid the sun. Okay, basically we can do two things. We can install the LPR camera into a pole and point it down, okay, into the ground. So we normally avoid this kind of situation. Or if we working with our totem, we can add this little cap to avoid the sun, okay? So yeah, quite important this point. So for now, let's review. Okay, we know the LPR solution, we know the datasheet and how it works. We analyze every single lane of the project. We know the form of the lane, the direction of the vehicle. We know the distance of the camera in between 3 and 10 meters. We're not going to overtake the maximum angle of the LPR installation. We ensure that the speed is less than 20 kilometers per hour. There is no information on the background that can confuse the OCR. The sun is not going to affect us because we decide to install the LPR camera into a pole, okay? So it looks that this project is going to go perfectly, okay? So once we know all this information, we can pass into the next point, the moment for install, okay? So LPR camera can be installed into wall mount that normally our client use electric boxes for save the tail wires. We can install into a pole. In this installation, the client use our GB01 waterproof junction box. Really, really powerful accessory, this one. Or we can install into a totem. Okay, so this is how quite easy to install. So basically, these are how we can install an LPR camera. Once we have installed it, the next question is where to point the camera. Okay. So, well, this is a general knowledge of the technology. We can do a cross in the middle of the image. And remember that the zoom is going to be done on the center of the image. So if we try to focus the number plate in the middle of the image, we ensure that if we need to zoom out or zoom in the camera, we always going to have the number plate on the image. The infrared light obviously right more on the center of the image. We have also to count on the background, okay? So that's how we point the camera perfectly into the project. The next point that we normally need to do is connect the LPR camera into the parking barrier. Okay, I'm going to give an example about how to connect into our ZKTeco parking barrier. So in the BG1000, quite simple because it works 12 volts. We grab 12-volt input, we install into the output of the camera, and the same with the app. Quite simple, quite easy. More problematic is if we want to install into the ProVG 3000, because these parking barriers works with 24 volts. So we highly recommend to use an intermediate relay, okay? Because the camera works in 12 volts, the parking barrier 24. I don't like to mix this kind of solution. So I always recommend to use an intermediate relay where we are going to do the same connection, but through the relay, okay? Any question to this point? Because the installation of the LPR it's quite simple. So we can add to our knowledge that we know how to install the camera, no matter wall, pole, or totem. We know how to connect our LPR into our parking barrier, standalone, this is a mistake, standalone or offline mode in ZK Biosecurity. And we know how to point the camera correctly into the number, into the number plate. So the next point is do the fine tuning. So in the fine tuning, do you remember the automatic door and the car in the background? So the way that we solve this problem is with a ROI, as Mandel says. Normally, we are going to try that the ROI grab only 1/3 of the image. Remember, as when the ROI is smaller, the camera is going to perform more quicker, sorry, it's going to be lighter for the camera. But at the same time, we can't do really small because otherwise we are not going to analyze properly the LPR. So approximately 1/3 of the image ROI is perfect. Then we have another important point, that is day and night mode, how to set up to work proper into the night. So the camera have five different ways of working. General mode, that is a setting that can work in between day and night, daytime only in color, night only for work during the night, switch on time, and press photosensitive toggle. I highly recommend to use switch on time, and I'm going to say why, okay? The way that I'm doing when I need to install some camera or help a client, so I try to know, in Spanish I already know, but I'm going to put an example of Beijing. So I'm going to look into a website and try to find the shortest date in Beijing. So the web page tell me that is 24th of December is the shortest day. And it's going to, the light start at 7:30 and finish into 5, the shortest day, okay? So important to know, the color mode of the camera can work during the day, but can't work during the night. However, the infrared mode can work both day and night. So based on that, and based on during the day, I'm going to select into the camera to switch during time. And my color mode of the camera is going to be in between a quarter past 8 and 5 o'clock. So the rest of the day, the camera is going to be in infrared. During this hour, it's going to be in color mode. I'm sure that if we do this kind of analytics thinking, the camera is going to perform perfectly in day and night through the year, no matters. Any question from this point? Because it's a little bit tricky to do this. So if you have any question, please tell me. Okay, the next thing that we need to do on the fine tuning is the focus, okay? So I highly recommend never to use autofocus. And I'm going to say why. The car, normally we see the car on the far distance. So the camera normally is not focused on that distance. So it's going to try to focus when the car is far. So at this initial point, we are going to have a not focused image. But the car continue approach into an LPR, and probably the car move faster than the focus velocity. So as a result, we are going to have always a not focused image. So my recommendation is to stop the car during the installation in the perfect place where we think that the camera needs to read, focus manually, and left that, okay? So now the camera is going to be focused perfectly during the day. What happened during the night? And that's physics that happened to all the cameras. During the night, the camera put an infrared filter. This infrared filter changed the focal point of the image. The problem of that is the image that we have during the day, sorry, that was perfectly focused during the night is not focused well. So we can focus obviously during the night, but now we have the same problem during the day. It's not focused during the day. How we can do that? Imagine that we have a graph. On the left, perfect focus during the day. On the right, perfect focus during the night. I'm going to set up the image, the camera over here. And this is the result. How can I analyze that? This installation particularly have 90% of the transit during the day and 10% during the night. So I'm going to focus I'm going to try to focus better during the day where more transit is going to happen than during the night, okay? The focus during the night works perfectly. The OCR is so good that the image on the right side, the night picture, is going to work perfectly. So as a result, this installation have 99% of accuracy, okay? When we need to reach this kind of accuracy, we have to count in every detail. And that's how we need to do, okay? I know this a lot of work is a little bit tricky sometimes, but that's going to be the difference in between have an installation in 97% or 99% of accuracy, this kind of detail. So normally when we install the camera in the first day, because we need to wait until the next day to check the image from the day before, normally the fine tuning of an LPR installation take 3 days, okay? So that's one thing that I always say to the client when the installation is finished, the car is already entry. I said, I need more or less in between 3 and 5 days of fine tuning where I'm going to enter into the camera and review all the transit. And that's where I'm going to do this focus adjustment, okay? Any question from this point? No. The next thing that we need to do is select the country of the LPR camera, okay? So in our LPR camera, it's quite simple. First, you need to select the country, Europe, America, Asia, Africa, Oceania, and then we select the countries. Okay, important to know. The less, the better, okay? The reason of that is because the number plate of different country are some kind a little bit similar in between each other. So on the upper image, we have a Greek number plate. On the downside of the image, we have a Hungarian number plate. They are different. I see 3-letter, 4 number, and the Hungary have 3-letter, 3 number. But what if I cut 1 number of the Greek number plate? Because maybe it was dirty, maybe because there was a car in front of the number plate and I didn't see well. Okay, from the OCR, and you can see in the image, it's an Hungary number plate. So for that reason, and to try to avoid these mistakes on the syntaxes of the number plate, the less country, the better, okay? Some client says, okay, but I have a lot of country that comes into my place. Okay, this kind of installation needs to be studied particularly. We can select some kind of country, or maybe we can do another setting. It can be done, works perfectly. But in general, we need to transmit to the client, the less country, the better for the OCR. Okay, we are going to know more things right now because we know how to place perfectly the ROI. We know how to set the camera during the day or during the night. It's going to work perfectly. We know how to focus in all the scenario, and we know how to adjust the OCR with not too many countries. Okay. So guys, if we follow all these steps, we ensure the success of the project. It's going to have really good % of accuracy. The client's going to be happy because it's a really, really extremely good solution. But sometimes any question from this point? No, perfect. Good teacher though. One question. Perfect, right, thanks. Well, but sometimes some issue occurs during the installation and we need to know how to solve, okay? So the next point, I'm trying to resume most of the question or issue that our client have on the first day of the installation, okay? So doing test, only read me once. Before doing this training, I have a call from a client with this problem. Okay, so I'm going to say, why is that? The LPR doesn't open the gate, it's another problem. The camera doesn't grab the file from the FTP. The camera have the runtime, and the camera do not read during nighttime. Okay, this is some of the problem that we could have during the installation. So let's try to solve the first one. Doing test only read me once. Okay, it's normal. That's we need to know. It's normal and happen a lot to new client. The LPR have some filter to avoid to read the same number plate multiple times. Imagine that I approach into the parking barrier and I stop because I receive a call. So I grab the call and I stop there 1 minute. If the LPR camera is continue reading my number plate, it's going to be really problematic if we want to search a number plate. So to avoid this situation, the camera have a filter. We can find the filter if we go in the upper menu, LPR configuration, and we see there in yellow, free flow motion options, filter mode, and we set in none. Okay. In the real scenario, have this filter is quite useful. However, for doing test, we need to change because normally we are going to do the test with one car on the installation, and we need that the LPR read this number plate a lot of time. So as an example, you can see here, when I change the filter into none, it read me 4 times in less than 1 second. Another problem that the client could have is the LPR doesn't open the gate. So first we need to check that the action list is proper create. Okay, we go here, we double check that we have an action for open or for close the relay of the camera. If it's done, we can close the relay manually. So we can go to setup, alarm out, and we set the relay of the camera normally open to normally close, and we click on save. If we do that and the open doesn't open yet, we need to check the wire of the barrier because probably we have some problem on the wire. Okay. Then the camera doesn't grab the file from the FTP. It's quite common, as I said on the first example of the university residence, that the installation use FTP file for give all the number plate to the camera. I personally use FileZilla. It's where I feel more comfortable for me. You can use whatever, okay? But personally use FileZilla. So first we need to check the FTP because normally the FTP sometimes are tricky and we could have some problem that if the FTP is correct, we need to check the action of the FTP and check the folder structure. And I'm going to explain a little bit more in detail this, okay? So what is the structure that we need to have in this file, okay? To know that, we are going to type manually a number plate. So we go to the whitelist, click on the plus signal, and we type a number plate, whatever, it's for test only, okay? When we create this number plate, we are going to go into all plate list, export all plates, and we are going to click in CSV or XML5 file, sorry. And then we are going to have the structure that we need to follow to update the list for the LPR camera, okay? So need to be the same structure, year, month, day, time, data, local, whatever. This can change, but the first number can't change because the LPR is going to search for this file name, okay? This is quite common, and I copied this a crop of a ticket that I did 20 days ago with this problem. The client says the camera doesn't grab the file from the FTP. So that's how it's solved, okay? Going to check some for question. Oh, perfectly. So well, another problem that our client could have is the camera have the runtime. So we need to know that the camera have no battery for safety time. So every time we unplug the camera, is going to continue with the previous time. But if we spend 1 day without power, we have the problem. So how can we solve? If the camera have internet connection, use NTP, okay, works perfectly. This is the NTP for Spain. you can use your home NTP for your country. And if the camera have no internet connection, we highly recommend to use NVR, because the NVR send the time to all the cameras, to all CCTV cameras. And normally the NVR have battery to save the time. So that's it, okay? Well, another issue is the camera doesn't read during the nighttime. So we see before, we need to check the image. When a client said the camera doesn't grab any number plate during the night, what we need to do is, okay, show me the image. We need to understand the reason why the camera doesn't grab any number plate. So if we see that the image is in color, okay, we set wrongly, the switching between day and night. We need to double check that. Maybe the image is too dark. So probably we put the shutter so quicker, or maybe we need to give more power for the infrared light, or can happen the opposite. The number plate is too bright, then the OCR can't recognize any character. In that case, we need to reduce the infrared power, okay? Another possibility is that the car lights gets totally blind the camera. In this case, we can do multiple solutions, like for example, change the shutter velocity, change the gamma curve. There are some things that we need to change, okay? All these parameters is going to be fine in setup, image setting, okay? There, all these parameters is what we need to change for is this problem occur. But mostly, trust me, sorry, mostly is the infrared setting. Normally, the number plate is too dark or too bright during the night. So changing this parameter, probably we are going to solve the problem of the client. So people, from this point, we finish the presentation. If you don't have any doubt, what I want to do is thank you for your attention. Let's try to add more installation to our portfolio. And I want to I'm going to take this advantage to thanks all the team in HQ, Daniele that it's over here, Mac, Ricardo, people who are pushing this solution into other part of the world. The solution is incredibly good, and it's going to have a really good future. So if you have any question, anything that we need to, if you need to know, I will try to do on a camera properly, so you can see better. And also, Tiana, I forget you, sorry. If I forget someone, please forget me. There are a lot of people that are pushing this solution. My pleasure to everybody. So no question at this point. This training is recording, so I'm going to send to you, send also the presentation as a checklist for in your next LPR project. Hopefully, if with our LPR camera, you can ensure the success of the installation. Yeah, I will share the presentation. Thanks to all of you guys. If you have any question, you can write me an email. So yeah, I'm going to type my email over here on the chat. So if you have any question, or if you have any consultancy of a project, I'm quite happy to do it. Does the LPR camera to all region like in Asia? Well, good question. I can guess not all country, but most of them. So you can.
wait 1 second only. Okay. So we have this open URL for the license plate recognition. I'm going to type English. Password is 128, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So login. And we enter into the LPR, okay? The live view is not going to work because our firewall, okay? We have a strong firewall on the office, so it's not going to work, but the LPR perfectly. So if we go to setup over here, Asia, we have all this country over here. Oh, sorry. It's a little bit tricky because I don't have a mouse. I'm using the pad of the laptop, but here we have, this is all the country that we have right now on the OCR, okay? So, however, if you need to work with a country that is not on the list, we can do it. Take more or less 1 month, but in 1 month, we have the country of the OCR. My pleasure, Nadine. I really invite you to enter into this web page. I'm going to type also into the chat. Okay. Password, remember 128. I try to enter once per week to put the camera against into the same neutral mode, but feel free to touch and test whatever you want. Okay. It's totally open for you. Okay, guys, if there is no any question, we're going to finish the training. Really thank you for your attention. And as I said before, if you have any doubt, please write me an email. I'm happy to help in whatever that I could, okay? Thank you, team. Bye-bye and have a good day.